Hold on, everyone. This scandal is hotter than anything reality TV has ever seen. It goes beyond what you thought was the turbulence, betrayals, and backstabbing. You won't believe the shocking justification for Kirk Frost and Mendeecees Harris, two of the most well-known hip-hop and romantic celebrities, being excluded from reality TV. What could be contributing to the drop-in? Is there something more nefarious and explosive than what we've been told hot tea is coming from? Or did these reality TV royalty characters' careers terminate due to a little problem or mistake? Sources, and its nearly intolerable Kirk and Mendeecees have become the focal point of love and hip-hop's most memorable moments for years, including family disputes and accusations of adultery. But why would the biggest misfits in reality TV history be kicked off a show that depended so much on their dramatic performance? You won't see Kirk, and I promise you that this story is more profound and scandalous than you could have ever imagined, and it begins with Kirk Frost, the adored youngster who is now a prominent figure in Atlanta's love and hip-hop scene. The parent has been embroiled in a number of scandals, including claims of adultery, extramarital affairs, and even pregnancy. After years of being at the center of the hip-hop drama, these two are suddenly facing the worst crisis of their lives. It is unrealistic to expect them to survive any scandal. However, Mendeecees Harris maintained that his imprisonment was only a phase in his career, claiming that he had made a name for himself as a heartthrob by captivated audiences with a story of redemption, hip-hop, and love. The show's recurring themes were his marriage to Yandy Smith, his family's drama, and his legal troubles. Even though Kirk had complete control over the event, his erratic conduct had him on the edge of his seat the entire time and held the audience's attention. Before a significant shift occurred, hate and its labels were linked to drama for many years. According to some who were near to the performance, Kirk and Mendeecees' whispers was the first. After a long period of stress, the relationship had finally erupted behind the scenes. The tension gave the producers, who were constantly looking for drama to add to the show, a chance to show, and the ensuing explosion caught them off surprise. A brief wind-down was scheduled before the reunion event, but it was canceled. According to several reports, according to rumors of backstage trash talk, Kirk didn't like Mendeecees, who allegedly remarked that Kirk was a washed-up husband who was only significant because of Rashida's celebrity. Realized he had spent years creating his own past, so I wasn't going to treat him disrespectfully because it was a ticking time bomb. However, Kirk and Mendeecees' friction didn't stop there. It only became worse, into a full-fledged altercation with shocking outcomes. But as tensions increased, so did the degree of aggression, with Kirk, a proud love and hip-hop series veteran, being disparaged. Moses' frank assessment of Kirk's previous problems hurt the program, and he was accused of not adding anything new to the show and even of trying to foment rivalries to stay relevant. Kirk allegedly said to his partner, "I'm holding the show back from this person who just got out of prison, somebody who was barely relevant before Yandy, which is the greatest insult to someone like Kirk. Kirk scooped him up." Kerr then proceeded to M behind the scenes, where D is alone himself. No one could have predicted the cataclysmic event that occurred when they first him backstage. Their heated dispute about the show's future and their respective roles in it quickly turned into personal attacks. He then allegedly made fun of him by pointing out Kirk's attractiveness, and every phrase was the last straw for Kirk, and the debate quickly escalated as his face twisted in anger and his jaw tightened in front of the crew, producers, and a few other cast members. Damage had already been done, both professionally and physically, when security rushed in to try to break up the altercation. Of course, as soon as the fight started, someone took out their phones, transforming what was meant to be a quiet after-party into the year's most anticipated event. The notoriously aggressive Kirk shoved Mendeecees DC, knocking him back onto a chair. Then the confrontation, which was unlike anything love and hip-hop had ever broadcast, startled the fans, who promptly took sides. Some supported Mace, accusing Kirk of being the others supported Kirk as an aggressor, claiming that he had no right to disparage the hip-hop and love pioneer. However, behind the scenes, things shifted when it became apparent that nobody was ready for the subsequent criticism. Hip-hop and Love executives and producers were working frantically to resolve the conflict, which would destroy the entire brand. The battle's optics were bad for the producers because, in contrast to previous on-site conflicts, this one was too savage, harmful, and captured on camera, putting the entire franchise at risk. Kirk and I were fired and banned from making an appearance in the movie following an urgent meeting at the end of the night. The producers were concerned about potential legal action, audience outrage, and additional scandal due Kirk Frost, the self-described king of hip-hop and love, shocked the industry by announcing that he would not participate in the discussion, which now focused on the reputation, trust, and general image of hip-hop and love. Nobody wanted to take advantage of this, so Kirk and Mendeecees were forbidden from recording any further love and hip-hop songs since he wasn't going down without a fight. Two of the most well-known reality TV stars were unexpectedly fired, but there was still a question: would they be allowed to return, or was their time on Earth really over? Excessive attempt to demonstrate that the program couldn't just fire Mendeecees and his reputation, but had it been too late, would time tell? The acrimonious argument between Kurt and viewers were constantly talking about M, which utterly upended the reality TV industry. The view was stunning, and the carefully composed photos of these two reality TV stars were amazing. Were seriously hurt by the well-known incident at the after-show recording that resulted in broken chairs and shattered glass. The seriousness of the problem behind the moments was instantly clear to the executives of Love and Hip Hop. It was not simply another argument between the actors. It was a serious problem that might make or break the entire series. The designers were in it frantically trying to think of ways to keep their firm afloat. In addition to causing a stir, Kirk and Mendeecees' acts were too obvious and risky to be let to go on, unquestioned behind closed doors, to determine how to manage the problem. The executives were weighing all of the fallout after the brawl became online. People began blogging their views on social media, with some claiming Kirk had every right to preserve his ancestry and others saying Mendeecees had good reason to defend himself. Nevertheless, it was clear that everything had gone smoothly. An unnamed production team insider claims that the bosses were frantically attempting to unwind in light of the worst-case scenario, going beyond what Love and Hip Hop could convey for entertainment value. In this instance, the reputation of Hip Hop and Love had always been built on chaos, so even if there had been fights on the site before, this one was serious. Kirk and Mendeecees went too. We couldn't ignore this kind of pandemonium, even when the network decided to blacklist them and prevent them from ever being seen in front of cameras or other people again. Dangerous fans love drama, but the repercussions were more serious than the altercation, and it was material that might end a career because legal matters were now widely known. Concerned about lawsuits, potential damages, and maybe investigations, Kirk and Mendeecees didn't intend to remain mute while the leaders of Love and Hip Hop made their decisions. According to reports, Kirk paced his homeroom the following morning in an attempt to process the information. He reportedly told his wife, "I built this program, they need me." Rashida, who is usually the calm voice of reason. "But Kirk, you saw the writing on the wall, you crossed the line, you touched him, and now it's out there. I've been with Love, and there's no turning back, and Hip Hop from its inception, so it felt like a betrayal to be abruptly and forcefully removed off the show after years of being one of the top hip hop stars." While he and Yandy were seated in his living room across the nation, he was overheard using foul language. When he got the same call, his body stiffened up immediately. "Rely on me for this," he reportedly said. No. This is interpreted as, "I've been through too much to let it be the end. You've been on the show for years, gentlemen. They've already made a decision. We need to consider our options." I was devastated since he had always seen himself as a necessary element of the performance, so it was painful to be interrupted so abruptly. But Kirk and Moses knew they couldn't allow it to happen without protest. Although Kirk had a wider view, Yandy, who had usually been the more reasonable one in their partnership, wasn't entirely sure. She understood how the industry worked, included his entire brand in addition to his hip-hop and romantic careers. He had established an empire and was not going to allow one error to destroy it. He was resolved to determine whether he could file a lawsuit for wrongful termination. If they think I'm simply going to vanish, they've got me. As the days passed, it grew increasingly the business was against Kirk and Mendeecees, making it clear that their battle would not be as simple as they had anticipated. There were rumors that they were being completely barred from reality TV, and once, according to several reports, he also told a buddy, "I built my name and I'm not going to let it fail." Successful careers in the sector were suddenly in danger of failing, and no network wanted to jeopardize their names. A renowned producer claims that trust is now more important than conflict, so if Kirk and Mendeecees can't manage their temper, how can we do anything? They found the guys in ruins. The possibility that they might never appear on reality TV again became a terrible reality, and what had seemed unimaginable became all too real. They would rather not be trusted on another show, not seize the chance as the network's empire was in ruins. Then the news arrived that would alter everything. A person with ties to several networks confirmed the veracity of the accusations against them, stating, "We're not handling them because they're too much of a problem, and they've caused an excessive amount of adversaries." What will happen to Kirk Frost and Mendeecees next? Will they be able to overcome it and launch their platform? Or is this truly the end of? Kirk and Mendeecees had to confront the agonizing fact that their reality TV profession, which had been founded on their names and drama, was now failing after a few weeks. Their personal and professional lives were at risk. Their influence was diminishing, and the accusations of blacklisting were confirmed. We don't need another PR disaster. As you can see, Kirk and Mendeecees weren't going to. Kirk wasted little time in attempting to salvage his profession after feeling abandoned and let down because they were starting a new chapter in their lives. He had established a Kirk reportedly told his closest pals, "I've made my reputation in the hip-hop and romance industries over the years, and it felt like a betrayal to have it all taken away in an instant. Mark on this profession, and I refuse to let any misstep to undo all of my hard-earned success." What would he do next? It was obvious that Kirk Frost would. It's not just about the fight, it's about legacy and about control the story. Kirk reportedly said when he called his lawyer immediately and requested that they file a wrongful termination claim. Kirk was determined to expose the underlying workings of love and respect. "They want to erase me, but that's not happening. They used me for years." Being removed from the performance was one thing, but being excluded from the show was another. Hip-hop saying, "I built the show without him, and without me there would be no show." The possibility of losing his job was dreadful for someone who had established his reputation on television and in public, but Mendeecees was not one to give up lightly like Kirk. The reality TV industry was totally different. He began to push back since he understood the industry and knew how to defend what was rightfully his, but instead of going to court, he launched a social media campaign to let his fans know that "I've been during an emotional Instagram live." Mendeecees stated, "I've been away from my family. I've fought battles no one even knows about. And now this happens, but I'm standing tall. Session won't defeat me, and I won't put up with rudeness directed at me, whether it is on or off camera." Of course, Yandy assisted him during a live session, and we always prevail. We'll make sure, despite the fact that Yandy had obviously already started planning their next move, she understood that no network could eliminate their fan following. But she also understood that they would have to deal with this industry had been the cornerstone of Misa's existence without the cameras and the drama. So when he faced future obstacles, his confidence was destroyed. Yandy, the strategist, wasn't one till he once sat with Yandy one evening and said, "I don't know if we'll bounce back from this." And he said, "Sit around and moan. We'll figure things out." Although Kirk had to admit that the entertainment business had deserted them, Yandy remained hopeful following the argument, the commotion, and possibly the reaction from marketers, and she assertively said, "We're not relying on fans because no network wanted to deal with them. Their emails and phone calls went unanswered, and the industry had effectively shut them off." "We don't need VH1. We'll create our own show," they said, anticipating the day when they would be in charge of their own destiny. Even worse, there were claims that according to a growing number of sources, Kirk and M were barred from Love and Hip Hop, as well as reality TV in general. Moses is reported to have whispered to Yandy, "I'm done, no more TV, I guess." At one point, this concludes it. However, Yandy refused to listen, demonstrating that everything was going to an end if they didn't want us on their platforms. She firmly reassured him. She was aware that this was not the end and that we would start our program and create our prospects instead of giving up. "We have our fan base, so we don't need them." As N and Yandy got ready to return, the public was inundated with comments. Some expressed surprise at how quickly the business had abandoned them, while others accused Kirk and myself of being too responsible. "I can't believe it." Someone posted on social media. Other users, however, weren't as sympathetic and weren't surprised that touching someone wouldn't have any negative consequences. Kirk and Mendeecees made hip hop and love, as they exist now, are being discarded like trash. The harm had already been done, and it appeared that Kirk's and M's careers were doomed, would be irrevocably damaged, despite the fact that the contentious dispute had now escalated into a full-fledged public relations catastrophe. However, the two then recognized that if they wished to change, they would need to change who they were, keep themselves in the public eye. The Kirk and MDCs were more than reality TV personalities. They were brands, and they would not let the world forget who they were. Kirk and Ness were planning their next move despite the industry's refusal to give them another chance. And as Yandy